I thank the Ateneo Professional Schools and the School of Government for undertaking a study and evaluation of our development framework. Ulitin ko po yung framework. 1 plus 1 equals lang. So, disaster risk reduction and management plus environmental protection and management is equal to urban development. Yun po yung pinaka-equation na ginamit po namin nitong administrasyon.
Moreover, with increasing interdependent economies, changing climate patterns, and persistence of vulnerabilities, crises are expected to increase in number and intensity, and they will bring not only immediate economic damage and loss of life, but can also have long-lasting impacts, as we saw a minute ago on Quezon City. Our framework, I just wanted to highlight that the inclusive cities approach typically supports interventions in slums upgrading, urban housing, local infrastructure, community services, and livelihood development. Whereas the Green Cities approach focuses on mitigation, adaptation, climate change resilience, as well as resilience in general, as you highlighted, to bolster the central role of cities in improving the quality of life. The competitive cities approach, which we highlighted a minute ago, focuses on the roles and contributions of economic clusters in the broader context of fundamental design and value-adding approach to inclusive economic development. And it actually looks at leveraging productivity of the cities. It looks at, leveraging revenue generation. And so one of the things that, we've been really focusing on is actually on providing or supporting, an adequate policy environment, for effective governance. And by policy environment, it can actually relate to any of the aspects or issues that we highlighted earlier on. It could be affordable housing, it could be services. It just needs to be targeted to the specific needs that the city has. In addition to that, we've been working with a number of cities on modernization, especially in the context of smart cities, IT upgrading. We're looking at supporting a lot of e-governance systems, supporting also, traffic enforcement, like in Chennai and so on. And this is actually becoming a trend and a need that is, emerging more and more because, local government also needs to modernize. Very briefly, I just wanted to share with you the approach that my own department, the Southeast Asia department, aside from ADB, has. And, we call it the Green EEE city system. It's a mode of engagement that is actually flexible and that actually looks at scalability, replicability, and adaptability. Cities and how we retrofit them these days, can be pretty complex. So we look basically at actions or projects which, within each of the grill settles of the city, can provide, sufficient level for learning, piloting, and subsequent upscaling, for the entire...
Population density in itself, I believe, is not the problem. And this is a counterintuitive thought. Sometimes people think that density in and of itself is a problem. And of course, density does bring a whole series of bottlenecks. But density is a necessary thing in cities. Many cities have dealt with it adequately. And urban density in many ways is a positive thing. It creates critical mass, it creates diversity, it creates the necessary combustion that brings life to urban communities. It's a way of life, and that's a counterintuitive thought. However, proper management of that density is key in enabling population migration both in and out of Metro Manila. And benchmarking against leading cities around the world, we need to ensure that we enable Manila's urban growth with a level of infrastructure, adequate roads, transport systems, flood control, and waste management, just to name a few. So it's all about managing that growth and managing that density. So to derive, I guess, the best that density can bring and the kind of combustion that creates just a tremendous excitement and a catalyst for innovation and many other things, that it has to be managed with a proper infrastructure. And moreover, in addition to hard infrastructure, we need to ensure that the right level of governance, urban management, and planning is in place to support Metro Manila. Let me perhaps be a little provocative here. I believe that there is a need for the creation of a central institution with political clout that can spearhead a cohesive and strategic planning and execution of the national, urban agenda. And I think this whole issue of planning coherence is necessary. I think there's been an extraordinary phenomenon in Greater Metro Manila. The cities are led by innovative mayors. They're dynamic, they've grown. But Greater Metro Manila is a mix of many cities coming together. And I believe, and it's just a personal opinion, that we need an overarching plan that unites the infrastructure of all these cities. And that's hard to do for the mayors. They have their own constituencies. But I believe maybe it's about time that the country create a structure that can give a cohesive plan that links, I guess, the infrastructure necessary for all these. In addition, there's a growing importance of government and private sector collaboration to address some key urbanization challenges, particularly in critical sectors such as infrastructure, disaster management, and shared value creation. Private sector not only brings capital, I do believe that it also brings innovation and accountability to the way it does things. When private sector gets involved, we have boards of directors, we have investors, we have the SEC, we have government agencies, all looking at us. And so in general, I'm not saying the private sector is perfect, far from it. But generally there's a lot of accountability that's put, I guess, in any manager in that sector, and that tends to lead to better results. And so in closing, I believe our government institutions have made significant strides in alleviating the urbanization challenges of the country and the challenges it's been facing in the last few years. I'd like to especially recognize socio-economic